Yes. So the last thing, remember now, before we take the test Thursday, if you have anything that isn't turned in before we take this test on Thursday, remember it's going to stay at 0. So make sure you get that stuff in. So go back into not plan book, but go into the grade book and check to see if you have any zeros from the last test until now. Get those in. Alright, now, cell division. You guys are pretty good with mitosis, right? Because you remember there's interphase, prophase, metaphase, right? Remember all that? And in mitosis, a cell that divides, right, is going just to repair or replace, or you're using it for growth, but it only divides once, right? Well, the one we're getting ready to talk about, meiosis, there's 2 divisions. So this, I don't know that you really have to draw the pictures just so you can get a good idea. So if this is mitosis, you start out, if human cells, how many chromosomes? 46. So if you start out with 46, it divides once and you get 2 daughter cells that have 46. Okay, so we grow, repair, whatever. But meiosis is cell reproduction for sexual, or it's cell division for sexual reproduction. Okay, I would write that down. Meiosis is cell division for sexual reproduction. And so you'll start out with 1 human cell with 46. It'll divide twice, and you'll end up with 4 daughter cells. Not 2, but you end up with 4. But what makes these so different is not only does this divide once and this divides twice, but you start out with 46 chromosomes, you end with 46 chromosomes. Over here, 46 chromosomes, what do you think? How many are you going to end up with? I don't expect you to know. Just take a good, what is it? 23, correct. Okay? And so, you know, if you think about it, I have 23 chromosomes from my mom and 23 chromosomes from my dad. And so the whole idea in meiosis is to make the gametes, right? The sperm cell or the egg cells that you got to have for reproductive purposes. So it is cell division for reproduction. Now, first thing you need to write down. Not only is it cell division for reproduction, but this tells you it's a process that takes one cell that's considered diploid. Big word, big fancy word, that it's diploid, and it turns it into 4 haploid cells. Well, some of you might know what that means, but chances are you don't know what the word haploid and diploid means, and that's the test question you might see come Thursday. Okay, it's pretty easy, right? You get into biology, you see a big word. We've always talked about it. You split it in half. Okay. So the process, it takes 1 diploid cell, makes 4 haploid cells, and they're called gametes, right? So sperm cell, egg cell. Diploid, if you split it, di means 2. Di means 2. And ploid, P-L-O-I-D, just means have sets of chromosomes. That's all it means. Just have sets of chromosomes. It doesn't tell you the number, it just says have sets of chromosomes. But if it tells you it's diploid, that's just a way of saying that cell has all the chromosomes. So it's diploid. So when we looked at our cheek cell under the microscope and stained it purple, the cheek cell is a diploid cell because it has all the chromosomes. Okay? And if you see this 2N, that just means that it's a cell that has all the sets. You know, dogs, what do they have? 98 chromosomes roughly. So 2N for a dog would be 98. That's diploid. But now I always think diploid is probably the one that's most difficult to understand. But haploid, it can be easy. All right, just before we go on, see that chromosome? How many chromosomes are there?
41.
41.
How many chromosomes you see here?
1.
2. Sister, 41. Come on. Nice. Anyway, okay, so haploid. Haploid is half. Well, remember, we're each half of mom and dad, and so a sperm cell delivers 23, that's a haploid cell, and an egg cell delivers 23 chromosomes. It's a haploid cell. Think of haploid as half. Half. Anytime you, in biology, you see haploid, you think, oh, it has half the cells. So if a dog is 98, what's half of 98?
40. 48, 44, 52.
No,
49.
What is it?
48.
43 and a half.
That's what I say.
98.
Oh, 90.
So a dog's haploid cell would have 40-some chromosomes in it, right? But us, it's only 23 chromosomes. Remember, the whole idea with meiosis is making one cell that's diploid and making 4 haploid cells that have half the chromosomes. You don't want to put 2 diploid cells together for reproductive purposes. It wouldn't work. There's too many chromosomes. Okay? Now, this thing right here, notice it. I've got this thing colored up. It's highlighted. I got it starred. That tells you it's pretty important. The one thing that you guys probably should understand, there is an event that happens in prophase 1 of meiosis. Now you think, what? Prophase 1? What's that? Well, think about it. In meiosis, the cells divide once. They go through prophase 1, metaphase 1, anaphase 1, and then it starts all over again. So then it'll go through prophase 2, and it continues the division. We don't have to know all those. When I was a young teacher, I made everybody memorize all that. I don't think that's something you need to know now. You just know meiosis. There's a meiosis 1, meiosis 2, and it's dividing the cell even more. But crossing over is something that probably something we can't explain a whole lot about. And basically it's where 2 chromosomes that are alike, that's what homologous means. They're similar in size, shape, and function. And what they do is, for some, if you look at my fingers, if you have 2 chromosomes that are here, they cross over and then they trade genetic material. That's called crossing over. There used to be a show, old show called Crossing Over, where this psychic would meet with people and he'd say, hey, you know, your dead grandmother is trying to get a hold of you. And it was kind of a cool show. And a lot of people think crossing over, that's what it means. It's not what it means. In biology, they're talking about chromosomes trading. And so the sisters, if you look, see how the sisters are crossing over here? And so right where they touch, they're going to trade. Now it isn't always right there. Usually when they do it, they're going top and bottom. But they could trade anywhere here, 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 here. It doesn't matter. And so every time this happens, it's usually in a different place. So it's like if you're a dealer and you're dealing cards, what do you got to do before you deal? You got to shuffle. That's your job. And so this is what's happening. The genes are getting shuffled even more. Cool fact. Really cool fact. I'm not much into numbers. What's this number right there?
8 million.
8,300,000. That tells you that if you're talking a sperm cell or egg cell, there's only 8,300,000 different combinations you could have in that cell. That's a lot. That's a lot. That alone is crazy. But think about it. If a man and a woman get married and they have children, you're putting that chance with that chance. You're going to multiply them out. That's going to make this number. Any idea what that humongous number is? It's not septillion.
Trillion.
It's trillion. 70 trillion. So the chance that there's one person born in the human race like you, identical, 1 in 70 trillion. So when they tell you, oh, you're so unique, it's not that lovey-dovey, warm feeling, fuzzy stuff. It's the truth. Think about it. There's only been 22 billion people ever been on the planet. No one has been born like you. No one, chances are, will ever be born after you like you. Because that number is just super huge. And this is the part that shuffles the cards, and then this combination, whatever this combination is between a male and a female, that it adds more shuffling to the genes. It's crazy. That's a humongous number. Now, yeah, you might have a doppelganger somewhere, but that's just kind of a term we give for somebody who looks kind of like you. And we all have people that look kind of like us somewhere, okay? And so a whole new genetic combination. Think about it. There's nobody like you, and nobody going to be like you after this. Ever. Now, you remember the pictures I showed you of the Sheen brothers, right? How similar they look?
Yeah.
Or like me and Eli. That's about as close as you're going to find unless you have an identical twin somewhere. Okay, last thing. Whenever, and since we're talking about gametes, here's a picture of both of them. Here's a sperm cell, here's an egg cell. This is a human sperm cell, a human egg cell. And so the process where a sperm cell is made, that's called spermatogenesis. Remember, Genesis means creation. So it's sperm creation. And this was new. I just added this. I didn't know it took this long, but it does. It takes 70 days to make a mature sperm cell. Okay, and with guys it starts at 12, 13, 14, 15, and then it continues. It's well into old age. So they could, you know, a 90-year-old guy, this is probably still going on. That's crazy. And so I'm thinking, man, if it keeps going, man, what are we talking? And so I found a number that says 1,500 sperm are produced in a male body every second. In a lifetime, that's a pretty big number. That's a lot. Okay? But this doesn't start till you're like 13, and once it starts, man, it just keeps going until the end. Now, not to leave girls out of this, the human female egg is called an oocyte. I've heard it called oo, I've heard it called oo. Chances are it's probably called oo because I like to pronounce it oo. That's just the way it is. But it's oogenesis or oogenesis. And so just a process that creates a female egg. Now the sperm cell is the smallest cell in the human body. You can't see it unless you have a microscope. The biggest cell in the human body is right here. If you had it in a little dish of water, you could see it floating around. It's that big. It's huge. And so the human egg, see this little circle right here that you guys can barely see it? That's what's called a pre-nucleus to it. And I'm going to show you a cool thing about that here in a second. Okay? Now here's a blow your mind type thing. Girls are born with 1 million mature oocytes or eggs. They're born with 1 million mature. But then by the time they reach 13, 14, 15, you know, when menstruation starts and stuff like that, there's only down to 300,000 that remain. And then over the course of their lifetime, so women, reproductive system shuts down from 45 to 50, 55. Guys, it keeps going. But girls, it shuts down about 45. And by that time, you know how girls menstruate and they have a period. Every period that releases 1 or 2 eggs, you're only going to get rid of 300 to 400 of the 300,000. But it's kind of cool to know that when a baby girl is born, the eggs are already, the delivery system is not the thing that's ready to go. The eggs are ready to go. With a guy, when that baby boy is born, there's no sperm cells there. You can't even, there's nothing there. Then the whole system gets going about 12 or 13 for both, and it goes. So pretty cool. Now, check this out. I'm going to use myself as an example here. Okay? So Mr. Dobson, he had 23 chromosomes from his father. Okay? 23 chromosomes from my mom. So my dad is Sid, my mom is Jackie. So they each gave me 23. What's 23 plus 23? 46. Now remember, sperm cell and egg cell, they're haploid. They only contain 23 chromosomes. That's where you get this number. Okay? N. Not 2N, it's N. And so at the point where I was conceived, way back in 1965, I'm going to guess, there's what I look like. Look how cute. Actually, we all look like that. So here's the fertilized egg. There's everything in here to make a human being. Technically, this is a human egg, or zygote now. It's a human type being because he has 46. See it? The circle? That's the nucleus of the egg. Here's the nucleus of the sperm cell, and they're combining. So they're combining to make a totally new human being that there's only 1 in 70 trillion chance you're ever going to see again. That's a pretty cool picture. Okay, so once it's fertilized, the nuclei come together, you got a new person, then that zygote, which is what it's called now, starts going through mitosis. And then if you look at it, look at that. Mr. Dobson, at one time I only had 4 cells. So after 2 divisions, I've got 4 cells. That's how it works. Remember, mitosis is cell division for growth. replacement, right, and repair. And so all these cells are called stem cells, and they can be tweaked to form one of the 200 some types of different body cells we got. This one here may end up eventually becoming a heart cell. Who knows? Still kind of a mystery how it knows what signals given at what time. And then after a few years, you'll get that. So it's me. Okay, or you. Depends on what you want. Now, questions on the notes. All right.